Welcome to Modernhood. First episode is about us, who we are, why we started this, and what we hope this podcast becomes. Bear with us. We're new at this. This is just a pilot, and we're going to see how it goes. So, on that note, I'm going to invite each host to take about 4 or 5 minutes to kind of intro themselves, high level overview of who we are, why we're here. Uh, I'm going to kick it over to you, Phil.
Why am I here? Who am I? So, like, those are like existential questions I ask myself every single day. And I think since becoming a father, even more so. And also, like, why does half my salary go towards berries? Like, that's a real thing. The organic ones, only
Berries.
organic, the blackberries too, and then the strawberries. Anywho, um, I've been in the game for 3 years now. And I do call it the game there because I feel like, man, you got to get your stripes. I have a lovely 3-year-old who has put me through the paces, and I think all of the things that I did to my parents are now coming back tenfold. And even some of the stuff my wife did to her parents, I guess I'm getting that heat too. It's all just coming back at me. Uh, Originally from the Northeast and found my way in California, met my now amazing wife and partner, and we were like, you know what, let's make our own people. And in that process, we did do just that and made this wonderful person who has, I think, all the best qualities that we exhibit. I know people always say, oh, you have my best and worst qualities. No, she's got all the best qualities that, I could ever want in a child. And I think my big thing is really trying to make sure that I continue to encourage her with those great qualities to like use them, because the world is I know it's been tough for me. I know it's been tough for you guys. I can only imagine how difficult it's going to be for her in the times we're living in. So, you know, just a family man. It's what I do. I'm gonna represent that. Hey, Hansel, have at it.
Big family, man.
Thank you, thank you. All right, so I'll take the same theme as Phil. How many years in the game? I've been about 7 years, 7.5 years in the game. His name is Hansel Lopez, born and raised in the Northeast as well, New York. Moved down to Miami in 2012, and have three beautiful kids, two boys. The youngest is a girl with my wife Maria, and then as a dad coming in, really kind of being not only accepted into this family, right? So these are stepchildren that have become my own children, but also being able to be open to kind of allow the kids to, you know, love you, accept you, and be there with you. It's been a fun ride. I think one of the things that I've learned along the way is to not take things personal, especially when they're young. And more so, when they get upset and and they don't, you do all these things for them, and then they like, oh, I don't. I think we were just talking about this not too long ago. They don't like you, or they hate you, and it's like, okay, you know what? You it's okay, and you really start to understand the meaning of unconditional love, right? Like it really has to be unconditional, not because you appreciated what I just did for you, or because I love you so much you have to love me back. And it's like, look, it doesn't always work out that way, but in the long run it evens out. I think they get there once they understand how to process their emotions. But I think one of the things that I've uh been surprised along the way is that I've been right. Like, you make all these assumptions as a parent, and then sometimes you think you're gonna be right, and when you're right, I'm like, oh shit, I was right. Cool. Like, there you go. See, I know what I'm talking about. But then you get humbled very quickly. So I look forward to continue. I feel like every year as they get older, it's trying to be right more than you're not. Just kind of finding the balance there. But that's me. Russo, how about you?
Perfect. Great segue. So, hey, everybody. Carlos Russo here. As the new dad of the group, I will do what all new parents do and say that I've been in the game 14 months, because it's not years. It's 14 months. It's months that you measure the time at the start of it all. But yeah, I have a 14-month-old beautiful baby girl. Um, originally from born in Santiago de los Caballeros from Dominican Republic. And then I was also raised in the Northeast, grew up in the Bronx. Had the pleasure of going to high school with Hansel, so I've known this man for probably way too many years. Um, and yeah, just trying to figure it all out. Still very new in this, and I wanted to bring these two gentlemen together to hopefully learn some things along the way.
Should I also
And
mention Hansel and I also go way back? Not as far back as you guys, but like we even lived together once.
Yes.
And I'm not
I've
gonna.
had the distinct privilege of living with both of you, actually, in separate occasions, of course.
I'm just gonna say the way he makes a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I see why those kids they get upset sometimes. Do you know about this,
Listen,
Russo?
first of all, are you supporting the way I make peanut butter and jellies, or are you trying to like hate on this process? Because I'll have you know,
So much hate.
that
so
didn't
much
sound like
hate.
support.
First of all, I'm gonna take a quick sidebar on this and say the I've made people believer in PB and J's the way I make PB and J's, and to explain the situation is bread, peanut butter, jelly in the middle. You don't do like peanut butter and jelly. You have to have a 2-to-1 ratio to the jelly.
That's a that is a bold
Do you hear the madness?
stance to take.
You can't trust this man. He's not making a school lunch
I'm
because you know
I'm just saying, it's a game
Uh,
changer.
Ziploc
Now
baggie
I
is all
know we're
messed
gonna
up.
have to have a whole conversation, a whole
All
episode
right.
on this apparently. Phil, we lost your video.
You lost my video. Oh dear. Let me go ahead and fix that. Yeah, I should have
Whoops.
said something. I'm out here. Well, and no video.
And
You
he's
know
back.
And he's
that.
back. So we missed all the facial expressions about the peanut butter and jellies, I'm sure.
You know they were wild too. There's a lot. What are you thinking? You
We're
trust
gonna
this
have to
man?
use it in the recording and then just say, like censored
No, just
portions.
grab a still of the image that you sent on text and just put that as a fact.
Like Phil was so upset he had to turn his camera off because he couldn't believe Hansel was still making sandwiches that way.
Yo.
Disrespectful.
Man, listen.
So guys, why this podcast? Talk to me. What's the goal?
Well, from my perspective, and we'll get into how the idea came about in the next episode. So stay tuned for number two, because we like to get our ducks in a row. But for me, I feel like, you know, parenting is probably one of the scariest things that I've stepped into in my life. Um, my wife and I, very intentionally made that decision. Like we were both 35 when we got together when we were 19. We knew that we didn't even want to entertain kids before 30, um, because we just knew that there was a lot of work we needed to do. There was a lot of things we wanted to accomplish, and we just wanted to give ourselves time and kind of runway to live a little and get a little more experience and be a little more prepared. And even with all of that preparation and all of that intentionality, this shit is still terrifying. And not only is it terrifying, you're constantly on your feet, you're constantly trying to figure things out. So for me, there's a ton of content out there. There's a ton of information about um, new parents and preparing dads and fatherhood and all that. Some of it is great, some of it questionable at best, to be diplomatic. Um, and I frankly just felt like this was a good avenue to bring three different and very unique perspectives and kind of have conversations that people like us from our backgrounds, from our cultures, and kind of similar viewpoints, and also people that aren't, but that might be interested, could at least kind of hear what it's like, what it's really like versus trying to take anything at face value that they read online. Because that's the other thing. We did a ton of reading. We did a ton of trying to like get ready and prepared. And there's a lot of people out there that like to tell you they are the expert and they know the best and this is the definitive. And the fact is that nothing is the definitive anything.
You know what's crazy is that like at the end of the day, you can't have a definitive, way of doing it because at the end of the day, your parenting has to be adopted to the kid, not the other way around. So, there's temperaments, personalities, and your parenting has to be dynamic. And yes, there's some very, basic level like right and wrong and morality and some stuff like that that you can kind of inject. But even that, you have to be able to understand your child and figure out how to, adapt, right? It's not an all size, one size fits all. So I agree with you, Carlos. I think for me, it was one of the situations of being able to have an open therapy session to a degree with you three, and then obviously our listeners, but also kind of workshop some things out. Sometimes, it's easy to kind of like fall within an echo chamber, whether it be an algorithm or your own head. So
Yep.
talking things out loud sometimes either helps reaffirm certain beliefs, challenge certain others, try different approaches. And we'll get into some of that. We Carlos has done that with actually my middle one as well, and kind of given me different perspective there. So and Phil as well. So it's kind of interesting to be able to kind of just look at parenting as a kind of like ongoing workshop than a, guide or rule book that you have to kind of go down the list and check off.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it is an ever evolving workbook because the way things were working last week is definitely not how they might be working this week. And I think there's a level of grace we have to give ourselves, being that we hadn't done this before. And that manual that we may have peeked at, someone may have given to us, is like, yeah, that doesn't really fit my lifestyle. I'm not putting my kid to sleep at
Right,
six
right,
thirty.
right.
Why? Because I don't want her waking up at 4:30. Because I don't have to be up until 7. But you take things like that and you ingest and you hear this and you should do this and you should do that. When in reality, I think, yes, there is some value to a lot of the information that's out there. But you also need to kind of forge your own way with what makes the most sense with what you've experienced and also um, how you want to support your family. I say raise your child, but it's really you got. Yes, you're raising a child, but they're also kind of raising you. They're teaching you more about. I've learned more about myself. I would say in these last 3 years than I had. I did a lot of therapy, as much as I did during my therapy sessions about who I am and how that comes across to the people that I love. So it's been a real eye-opening experience, but I'd also say yeah, that manual is ever evolving. It's constant. So
Yeah. I feel like also at times it feels like throw the manual out the window. Because the manual doesn't work, the frameworks don't work. Um, it's just a matter of figuring it out. Um, One thing that we were told, I think it was day 3 of her life, invaluable advice, I think. It was one of our pediatricians, and he was like, look, you're going to get all this information, all this input, all this advice. Everyone's going to tell you the best way, the right way, the what worked for them, and all that. And he framed it as these are all tools that you're being told and shared. Take those tools, put them in your toolbox. And then as situations arise, you pull a tool out of that toolbox. And if it works, great. If that's the tool for that job, use it. If not, put it back in the toolbox and bring out another one. Because he also mentioned how, which is one of the lovely parts about parenting, the tool that worked today may not work tomorrow.
Yeah, it's like what
So,
Phil said.
so you got to put that one away and pull out a new one. And then on top of that, you can't throw that one away because that one might work a month or two from now.
shoot,
And it's just such a lovely, lovely,
It's like
lovely thing.
whack-a-mole. It's like, what's gonna be today?
you got some good
Sometimes.
advice. You know what mine was? They told me keep the baby alive. Like
Keep
that
her
is your
alive.
one job. I remember I went in my manager at the time. She was like, "You're a new parent," and she had a her first or second child around the center. She's like, "You have one job: keep your child alive." I was like, "Oh, okay." When you put it that way, I mean, yeah, I can get behind that.
Seems pretty
Till you
simple.
realize what that takes.
You know, when you say that, it's interesting because what I think about is like, and I guess we'll explore, which is interesting because obviously we all have kids in different kind of ages. So it's going to be interesting as we go through this podcast to really talk about I think keeping a child alive never stops being a priority. I think like, obviously, right? Like, but I think like it becomes like a Maslow hierarchy of needs. It's like, okay, you get good or at least a baseline because maybe they become more aware, they become self-dependent a little bit. So you have to worry less about like, don't stick, your hand in this place to more like, okay, I know that's not going to happen. I'll still keep an eye, but now I can, divert mental energy to, okay, how can I do something more productive from reading or relationship as they get older, right? Like there's different stuff that builds upon that base level of keep your baby alive. So it'd be interesting exploring like, hey, once you've been able to kind of get that done, and listen, in scenarios and the realities as siblings, right? Some of us have siblings with a large age gap where we play almost sometimes a parental model figure. How does that impact to how you turn around and now that you have a kid of your own, right? So there's I think this podcast is going to be very interesting for me and hopefully for all you guys who tune in how we kind of explore some of these concepts. Look for your feedback, maybe share some of your stories as well of ours. And hopefully everybody can walk away with a little bit more tools in their toolbox, right?
Basically.
Than they did yesterday.
Definitely.
That's kind of how I'm seeing it, in terms of the themes and the tone and the rhythm. Hopefully this conversation should be a good baseline for you to know what you can expect from our episodes. We might have guests on, we might try to bring on experts, have good conversations, but ultimately we really just want to provide the opportunity and the chance for each of us to kind of have a supporting role in each other's lives. So we'll pose questions, we'll pose scenarios and situations, and just try to use the community as a way to uh, provide an even response in situations that in our lives are probably, emotionally charged and kind of difficult to handle in a silo.
As I guess, as someone who formerly worked in education, I always think of Sesame Street and like letter of the day. And I'm like, V. And I'm like, why V? I'm thinking of vulnerability. And when I think of what we're doing here, I think there's a strong element of that I think we are procuring, that we're curating, that we are uh, transparent and sharing. And I hope this does sort of spark up some additional conversations when you are with your siblings or with a parent about you know their experiences and sort of more specifically what we are currently going through in these very different stages. So that is my promise to anyone who's listening, to you guys as my brothers, is that level of vulnerability. I think just has to be there.
Agreed.
100%. I also just got an idea, an episode where we have the parents on. Ooh, I
Ooh,
don't know. That
our
might be
parents
too
on?
spicy.
Which
That might
set?
be too.
Wait,
That
wait,
might be
our
too
parents on?
spicy. Yeah.
Girl, boy,
Woo,
listen,
it's gonna be good.
I don't know. I don't know. It could be fascinating.
my mom's gonna be there talking. You're like, what?
No.
We may
My
have to add
parents,
subtitles.
they told me whatever you didn't like that we did growing up, just you don't have to do that with your kids. And I'm like, all right, that's
100%.
fair
Wait,
enough.
but you know what? Whether they're on the podcast or not, I think the segment, even if we say, look, let's get some questions
Oh,
and
yeah,
and you know what I mean, and we could be like, look, whatever, let's read some of these answers, right?
right.
Yeah, that would be fascinating.
Mm. Hmm.
Talking about segments, I
Hit
think
me.
this is a great opportunity to dive into our mini segment, which will be a rotating segment per episode. But for right now, we wanted to talk about dad realizations of the week. So, anything this week, a personal moment that was funny, weird, or surprising or emotional, uh, that you can kind of think of? And I'll get us started. So, for me, um, super surprisingly emotional was unfortunately, our little one has hand, foot, mouth disease. And like she was fussy. We thought it was just teething related. Um, but it was like pretty consistent. She had a fever for 36 hours or so that we were controlling. It didn't go above 101 or like naturally. And so we were like monitoring. And then finally, Wednesday morning, we take her to the pediatrician. And it was just what, like, why did we wait? Was, why did we not just say, hey, she's acting differently? She's not like it, and it was different because she was okay. Like, she was a little lethargic and very wanting cuddles, but she still was eating. She was still herself. So we were just like, oh, like, well, we'll wait, we'll wait. So then when we go to the pediatrician and they tell us, oh, yeah, she has hand, foot, mouth disease, we were just both like, fuck, why did we wait? Like,
Mm.
why didn't we just immediately say, let's book an appointment, let's come in? And it's something that we'll probably get into later on, but I know for me, health wasn't ever really like top of mind or something that you jumped at. Um, and now it's something that we're realizing we need to break that cycle when it comes to her. Like, we don't have to delay a doctor's visit until we're like dying. Like,
Right, right, right.
something's off, let's go in. So that was my realization for the week. Like, gotta break those old habits, I guess.
I think my realization happened, I think, in talking to you prior to the call. I was like, wait a minute. What do you mean? You ha- Wait, you guys are doing about antibiotics too? Oh, we are too. You all didn't sleep last night? Oh, we didn't either. I think there was so much guilt. I was telling Russo Hansel before we hopped on. I was up at 1:30. I couldn't sleep. Hasn't been feeling well. Went to urgent care. They checked her out. Don't particularly love her primary care provider, and we're just like, my wife's a nurse, and an ICU nurse for little ones, so she sees the craziest stuff you can imagine. So she's up, and I'm like, you got to be up for work in like 3 hours. Why are you talking to me? I love you, but like, why are you talking to me? Go to bed. We're like downstairs in the kitchen going back and forth about sort of the healthcare system. She's like, I see too many parents who um, wait too long because the kid kind of seems okay. You're like, oh, you're just a little tired, oh, you're a little whiny, but for the most part, you're doing all the things you would normally do. And I started feeling guilty. I started like, I don't normally stress eat, but I'm like eating like 2 plums. We had some bougie sodas that we got from World Markets. I'm like drinking a lavender soda. It's 1:45 at this point in the
That's the
morning. I'm
French
going,
one.
the French one. It's better as a mixer. But sitting there just like, what did I do wrong? Why didn't I see this? I see her every night. I always talk to her. I'm always just monitoring, always looking, 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 looking. And you're like, my biggest fear is like, I waited too long. That I do irreparable damage to my child.
Mm-hmm.
Something I cannot fix. That's my biggest concern is that
Yeah.
something happens that with my mind and with my hands, I cannot actually fix. Um, and then I had a little moment of realization. I was like, it is now 2 a.m. There's nothing that's going on. She's sleeping. I did give her that dosage of antibiotics at 8, twice a day. Been on that schedule. And she's fine, and we're going to figure it out. And tomorrow we're going to wake up, and here's our action plan. And I was feeling better once I kind of went through that plan. But I had that moment of like don't panic. Now is not the time to panic. Let's think through this and what it's going to what it's going to look like. And take a deep breath and like we got this. We're gonna figure it out. Just not at 2 a.m.
Just not at 2 a.m. But also those are the golden hours. Isn't it always between midnight and 3 with these little ones?
Always.
I'm gonna be
Always.
glad that I'm past that stage.
Yeah, but
Oof, because your boy
you're
could not. I guess my realization of the week is, and I think
How
this,
easy you have it.
hey, nah, bro, I'm dealing with like, I'm dealing with now temperaments.
Mm,
They know everything. They know everything more than I do. But especially in this age where they know everything, right? Do a lot of talking. I talk to them, you know, pretty like I don't try to, obviously unless it's like really complicated adult topic, which we'll find a way to kind of like get make it to their age. But I try to talk to them, with the respect of intelligence, right?
mhm,
Like, hey, look.
mhm,
You understand what I'm talking about. I'm not going to dumb this down for you unless you don't know a specific word or a concept. But like I'm talking to you like I would talk to an adult to a degree. And sometimes because they know everything, they have the glazed eyes and they're rolling their eyes. They're like, I have the sneaking suspicion that it's not too much of a suspicion that they don't really care. They're like, yes, okay. And then earlier this week, so I don't give I tried to make sure that like we don't give the kids money. I mean, like again, we give it's correction that we don't buy the kids things in the sense of like, you want this, I'll buy it. You want this, I'll buy it. Instead, I try to opt to giving them money, whether it be allowance or they earn it through grades or they earn it through whatever, but they get the money and they buy what they want because it gives them a sense of ownership that all of a sudden they're like, are you willing to spend your money? Because now it's yours. It's not me and mom's, right?
mhm.
And when it came to Mila was wanting something on like her iPad, and she goes, "Hey, Hans, could you go to my room, check this bag? You see the $5 there? Yeah, could you grab that? Can you just take that? Because I'm gonna ask for something right now on my app that I want to buy. And by the way, you're the one that always says that I could buy with my money, so like there shouldn't be a problem. It's like relax. I wasn't gonna say no, like, but I just thought it was funny because they're like she's already calculating. Man, I stashed away this money and I really want this. Okay, cool. I think I can make this happen. Like it wasn't a matter of like, hey, could you buy this for me? It's like, hey, I already have the money. I just need you to approve it. We're cool, right? Because that's the rule. And it's like, yes, that's the rule. You're good. You're
It's like,
good. This
oh, so
oh,
you do listen.
correct, sure. So it's like, okay, cool. And then Maria just laughs. She's like, see, that's your daughter. Yeah, like this is because of you. Like you can't be mad. I was like, no, I think this is funny. But yeah, it was kind of hilarious.
Man, what a ride. I mean, look, if this conversation and this episode isn't a good example and a good way to reaffirm what the vibe and the purpose of the show is from our perspective for you, um, I don't know what is. I think that obviously this is a pilot, this is the start. So, yeah, that's what we can promise. I think Phil hit it on the head. We can promise vulnerability, we can promise to show up and have honest conversations. And we hope that for the audience, it is useful. And speaking of the audience, please give us feedback.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can
yeah.
also submit stories. We will add that to the queue. But specifically, again, reiterating, this is a pilot. Be brutally honest.
And share your stories like this. We have a couple things that we want to talk about and share, but share your stories, share your questions, share your feedback. Would love to kind of take some time and throw it up to the group and just get some reaction, get some advice, get some just overall kind of comments on what all you guys are going through as dads out there. And maybe even the moms, you can get a little
Hey,
insights
if the
into,
moms tune in, let
dad
us know.
brain.
Yeah, but if you do have questions, by all means, hit us up. So, next week, we're actually going to be talking about the origin story of this podcast and how Waffle Wednesday, which is our check in ritual, started it all. We think it'll be a really interesting conversation and experience for us all to have.
I'm
On
in.
that note, this is Modernhood from one dad to another. We're all figuring it out.
Peace.